The process of the soul's detachment at death. There is a moment, silent, imperceptible to the untrained eye, when life begins to loosen its grip. It is not a sudden rupture, not a theatrical ending with thunder and finality. Instead, it unfolds, like the slow unraveling of an ancient tapestry woven with threads of memory, emotion, and intent. As the body exhales for the final time, the soul, an eternal traveler cloaked in layers of forgotten wisdom, gently begins its ascension. This is not escape, but transformation. Like mist rising from sacred waters, the soul begins to detach, leaving behind the vessel that once housed its cosmic mission. The ancients spoke of this with reverence, suggesting that in the stillness of death, one may hear the softest song of rebirth. This initial phase is shrouded in what the mystics call the veiled awakening. The body lies still, but something stirs beyond the flesh. Esoteric manuscripts long banned from the public eye, textos prohibidos, describe this moment as the opening of a luminous gate between dimensions. It is through this gate that the soul begins its passage, not in haste, but with sacred deliberation. Here the energy of the soul pulses with a residual connection to the material world. Emotions, unresolved memories, and energetic imprints still echo through its etheric form. The process is not instant, it is a gentle detangling, a spiritual alchemy where dense matter gives way to luminous essence. Near-death experiences, often dismissed by rigid science yet revered in esoteric circles, provide profound testimony. Many who have glimpsed beyond describe a lightness, an overwhelming peace, and a detachment so vivid it feels more real than physical life. Some recount seeing their bodies below, as if they were observers of a forgotten skin. Others hear voices, feel presence, or float in what they describe as timeless corridors. These glimpses are not fantasies, they are windows into a transition that ancient traditions have always honored. They whisper of a soul still conscious, still tethered to the vibrational field of the earth for a brief but significant span. The detachment of the soul is also marked by what the alchemists called the unsealing of the inner light. As the soul rises, it begins to recall fragments of its origin, its journey, and its purpose. This stage is often accompanied by confusion and awe, as layers of material identity begin to fade. The illusions of ego, name, title, and role dissolve into the mist of remembrance. The soul is not yet free. It hovers, assesses, listens. This is a sacred interval where the forces of Sabidoria Ancestral guide its steps through invisible landscapes, energies accumulated throughout a lifetime. Now form the bridge to the next phase, influenced by thought, emotion, and frequency. And so, as the veil between realms begins to lift, we find ourselves standing at the edge of a profound question. If the soul is still present, observing, sensing, awakening, what does it experience in the immediate days that follow? This leads us to an ancient teaching held by sages across civilizations, one that speaks of a pivotal threshold, the 7-day transition, a period where the soul, still closely linked to the world it left behind, faces its first true test of liberation. Let us now venture deeper into this sacred interval and uncover what truly unfolds in those mystically charged first days after death. Initial confusion and the role of the 7-day transition. Imagine awakening in a place where time has lost its grip and the familiar no longer obeys the rules of reality. This is often how the soul feels in the initial moments after detachment. Though liberated from the physical vessel, the soul does not instantly recognize its newfound state. There is confusion, a surreal in-between where memories still cling and earthly concerns echo like distant whispers. Countless traditions, from Tibetan texts to Gnostic scrolls hidden deep within monasteries, describe this stage as the twilight of awareness. The soul may attempt to speak, to move, to return to routines, but nothing responds. It floats unseen and untouched, yearning for recognition that will never come in the same form. During this crucial time, which sacred scripts identify as the 7-day transition, the soul remains deeply entangled with the energetic residue of its former life. Emotions, places, and loved ones act like gravitational pulls, drawing the soul near. In many cases, the departed linger around the physical body, especially during wakes or funerals, not out of fear, but out of love, confusion, or unfinished business. The Sabadoria ancestral of ancient Egypt warned of this phase in the Book of the Dead, portraying it as a journey through liminal zones where the soul is tested, not by gods, but by its own unresolved energies. These 7 days are not just temporal. They are symbolic thresholds of transformation. Mystics from diverse paths agree the thoughts and emotions of the living can deeply influence the soul's passage during this sacred window. Grief, rage, guilt, these lower vibrations can obscure the soul's clarity, binding it to earthly attachments. On the other hand, prayers, forgiveness, and acts of love become luminous threads that guide the soul through the mists. The energy of those left behind becomes a bridge or a barrier. In many indigenous and esoteric traditions, rituals are performed specifically within this window to aid the soul's release. It is a cosmic collaboration where both dimensions, the living and the beyond, play their roles in the soul's unfolding journey. This phase also carries a metaphysical echo of the number 7, long revered in sacred geometry, astrology, and spiritual science. The 7 days represent more than just a passage of time. They reflect the 7 energetic layers that the soul must cleanse or reconcile. From dense emotional imprints to the subtlest spiritual memories, each layer is peeled back, revealing the radiant core beneath. It is in this slow alchemy interior that the soul begins to understand. It is not dead. It is awakening. Yet awakening brings questions, and questions seek resolution. The soul yearns to know what comes next. Where do I go? What must I face? And just as this stage begins to feel bearable, the soul senses a deeper call. A vibration stirs in the cosmic field, a signal that it must now move inward, not outward. Beyond the veil of the familiar awaits a chamber of mirrors where no lies can exist and no masks can hide the truth. This is not judgment, but revelation. For on the 8th day, the soul enters a realm where time bends and every action echoes like a bell in eternity. It is here that the review begins, the life unveiled not as a series of events, but as waves of consequence. Let us now cross the threshold and uncover the sacred journey of the next 40 days, the 40-day period of review and healing once. The soul steps beyond the initial veil. It enters a domain unlike anything the physical mind can grasp. It is a place where memory is not linear, but holographic, where the past is not recollected, but relived. This sacred stage, known in many spiritual traditions as the 40-day passage, marks a profound turning point. Here, the soul is no longer confused, but contemplative. It becomes both witness and participant in the great unveiling of its life. Not just what it did, but how it made others feel, not only actions, but intentions. This is the mirror of cosmic truth, a chamber where every vibration ever emitted by the soul returns to be felt once more. Many esoteric texts refer to this phase as the field of echoes. In this mysterious realm, the soul does not face condemnation. It faces understanding. It watches not as a detached observer, but as a fully immersed being, feeling the joys it gave, the pains it caused, the kindness it withheld, and the compassion it expressed. The purpose is not punishment, it is illumination is spiritual. Through this process, the soul begins to purify itself of energetic residues that cannot ascend with it. The ancient mystics saw this as a moment of sacred alquimia interior, where the weight of unresolved karma melts under the light of conscious awareness. Only through this fire of insight can the soul refine its essence. The 40-day duration, echoed in countless spiritual traditions, from Jesus' retreat in the desert to the mourning customs in ancient Sumer, reflects a metaphysical cycle of transformation. In these 40 days, the soul is gently guided by unseen mentors, often described as beings of light or spiritual ancestors. These are not judges, but companions, echoes of Sabiduria ancestral that help the soul remember its divine origin and learn from its earthly experience. Through symbolic visions, archetypal dreams, and intuitive revelations, the soul is offered a deeper perspective on its incarnated journey. It begins to let go, not just of the body, but of attachments, fears, identities, and regrets. This is also the period of healing. Just as a wound must close before a body moves again, so too must the soul repair its fragmented self before continuing. Energetic scars left by trauma, loss, or ignorance begin to dissolve as the soul bathes in the cosmic energy of forgiveness and release. This process is deeply affected by the soul's willingness to face its own truth. Some resist, others surrender. But the more open the soul becomes, the more it receives. It is here that the distinction between pain and wisdom begins to blur. Suffering becomes sacred, an initiatory fire that transmutes darkness into awareness. Each insight is a step closer to wholeness. Yet even this sanctuary of review is not the end. There comes a moment, subtle and silent, when the soul begins to sense the presence of doorways, portals that vibrate with distant frequencies. These are not places in the traditional sense, but states of resonance. Spiritual realms, layered like veils of light, begin to call. The soul, now lighter and clearer, is drawn to them not by choice, but by alignment. It feels the pull, not of duty, but of destiny. And so, our journey leads us to the next revelation, the hidden architecture of the spiritual realms, the astral sanctuaries beyond time, and the energy patterns that decide where the soul shall go. Spiritual realms and portals. As the soul transcends the final echoes of its earthly self, it approaches a vast and intricate network of realities, dimensions not mapped by stars, but by vibration. These are the spiritual realms, described for millennia in sacred texts and whispered traditions, yet hidden in plain sight from the material world. Unlike the rigid dichotomy of heaven and hell offered by exoteric doctrines, these realms are fluid, vibrational states of consciousness. The soul is not sent anywhere, it is drawn by resonance. Its frequency, shaped by lifetime choices and the alchemy interior of its reflections, determines the doorway it will pass through. Mystics of old spoke of these realms, not in terms of location, but in color, sound, density, and clarity. Some, like the luminous colonies described in Chico Xavier's No Solar, shimmer with peace and collective harmony, places of healing and service. Others are heavier, dimmer, filled with wandering souls entangled in unresolved desire or fear. These planes, some nurturing, others mirroring confusion, are not punishments, but reflections. They mirror the inner architecture of the soul itself. The more aligned with Luz and Sabiduria ancestral the soul has become, the higher the frequency it may reach. In this sense, spiritual evolution becomes the true compass through this cosmic terrain. Entry into these realms occurs through portals, energetic thresholds pulsing across the invisible lattice of existence. Some are activated by thought alone. Others require the presence of guides, symbols, or keys that the soul must recognize. Esoteric traditions speak of guardians at these thresholds, beings of light or ancestral entities that test not worthiness but readiness. These gates do not open by plea, but by frequency. The soul must become the vibration of the place it seeks. This is why the previous stages, detachment, transition, review, are so vital. They are not mere passages, but preparations for alignment with these higher domains of Energia Cosmica. These realms themselves are layered like veils of sacred fabric. Some souls enter cities of light where knowledge flows like water and creation responds instantly to intention. Others find themselves in temples of silence where illumination, spiritual emerges in meditative stillness. Yet others, still carrying burdens, may enter dense territories of shadow, not to suffer eternally, but to remember, to purify, to awaken. Each realm offers lessons. Each is a classroom in the university of the cosmos. The journey is not linear, and the soul may move across planes as it continues to evolve, always guided by the magnetic pull of its own inner light. But even in these distant spheres, something tethers the soul to the world it left behind. A whisper, a memory, a bond not severed by time or space. For love, in its purest form, is not limited by realms or lifetimes. It transcends even the most distant astral planes. And so a new mystery emerges. Can the soul reach across dimensions? To touch the living, can it visit, guide, or heal those still on earth? The answer lies not in theory, but in stories. Real experiences of those who have felt the unseen presence of those who once walked beside them. Let us now explore the profound reality of spiritual visits and the eternal bond that connects the eye, living and the beyond, spiritual realms and portals. As the soul transcends the final echoes of its earthly self, it approaches a vast and intricate network of realities, dimensions not mapped by stars, but by vibration. These are the spiritual realms, described for millennia in sacred texts and whispered traditions, yet hidden in plain sight from the material world. Unlike the rigid dichotomy of heaven and hell offered by exoteric doctrines, these realms are fluid, vibrational states of consciousness. The soul is not sent anywhere, it is drawn by resonance. Its frequency, shaped by lifetime choices and the alchemy interior of its reflections, determines the doorway it will pass through. Mystics of old spoke of these realms, not in terms of location, but in color, sound, density, and clarity. Some, like the luminous colonies described in Chico Xavier's No Solar, shimmer with peace and collective harmony, places of healing and service. Others are heavier, dimmer, filled with wandering souls entangled in unresolved desire or fear. These planes, some nurturing, others mirroring confusion, are not punishments, but reflections. They mirror the inner architecture of the soul itself. The more aligned with Luz and Sabiduría ancestral the soul has become, the higher the frequency it may reach. In this sense, spiritual evolution becomes the true compass through this cosmic terrain. Entry into these realms occurs through portals, energetic thresholds pulsing across the invisible lattice of existence. Some are activated by thought alone. Others require the presence of guides, symbols, or keys that the soul must recognize. Esoteric traditions speak of guardians at these thresholds, beings of light or ancestral entities that test not worthiness but readiness. These gates do not open by plea, but by frequency. The soul must become the vibration of the place it seeks. This is why the previous stages, detachment, transition, review, are so vital. They are not mere passages, but preparations for alignment with these higher domains of Energia Cosmica. These realms themselves are layered like veils of sacred fabric. Some souls enter cities of light where knowledge flows like water and creation responds instantly to intention. Others find themselves in temples of silence where illumination, spiritual emerges in meditative stillness. Yet others, still carrying burdens, may enter dense territories of shadow, not to suffer eternally, but to remember, to purify, to awaken. Each realm offers lessons. Each is a classroom in the university of the cosmos. The journey is not linear, and the soul may move across planes as it continues to evolve, always guided by the magnetic pull of its own inner light. But even in these distant spheres, something tethers the soul to the world it left behind. A whisper, a memory, a bond not severed by time or space. For love, in its purest form, is not limited by realms or lifetimes. It transcends even the most distant astral planes. And so a new mystery emerges. Can the soul reach across dimensions to touch the living? Can it visit, guide, or heal those still on Earth? The answer lies not in theory, but in stories. Real experiences of those who have felt the unseen presence of those who once walked beside them. Let us now explore the profound reality of spiritual visits and the eternal bond that connects the living and the beyond. Spiritual visits and ongoing connection. Though the soul may have crossed thresholds and ascended into realms beyond human comprehension, its journey is far from severed from the world it once knew. In truth, the connection between the departed and the living endures, woven not through flesh or proximity, but through vibration, emotion, and intention. Stories from every corner of the earth speak of visitations, dreams that feel more real than waking life, whispers heard in silence, familiar scents that appear without cause, sudden breezes that feel like an embrace. These are not coincidences. They are the footprints of souls traversing the invisible bridge between dimensions, reaching back not to haunt, but to comfort, to guide, to remind. In the teachings of ancient mystics and forbidden scriptures buried beneath the sands of time, the soul is described as capable of echoing backward, returning from higher planes to touch the hearts of those still incarnated. This process is not arbitrary. It is guided by energetic permission. The emotional state of the living plays a pivotal role. When the heart is open and vibrates with love, forgiveness, or longing tempered with peace, the connection becomes a beacon. But when grief festers into despair or attachment transforms into spiritual weight, the channel distorts. In such cases, the soul may remain tethered, unable to fully progress. Thus, both realms influence each other, entwined in a dance of energetic reciprocity. There are moments when the presence of a departed soul becomes undeniable. A daughter feels her mother's hands in a dream and awakens with a peace she hadn't known in years. A father senses his son's laughter in the wind. These are not illusions. They are manifestations of energia cosmica responding to sacred bonds that transcend death. True love, it is said, is the only force strong enough to pierce the veil. It becomes the medium through which spiritual communication is made possible. The soul becomes a guardian, a teacher, a subtle presence beside the living, nudging them toward healing, growth, and sometimes toward their own awakening. But these visits are not merely gestures of affection. They often carry purpose. They may bring messages, warnings, or blessings. In esoteric philosophy, such encounters are sometimes considered part of the soul's own journey toward illumination, is spiritual. By returning, the soul revisits its past not out of regret, but to resolve, to uplift, and sometimes to plant the seeds of consciousness in those who remain. These interactions form a sacred loop of alchimia interior, where grief is transformed into reverence and absence into silent companionship. The connection endures not as memory, but as presence, subtle yet unmistakably real. And yet, with every visit, the soul must eventually return. For its path continues beyond this world, through even more refined layers of the cosmos. But the bond remains like a golden thread woven between timelines, always accessible to those who listen, not with ears, but with the heart. So now, a final mystery rises. What more lies beyond? If the soul connects, guides, transforms, and then departs again, what awaits in the further cycles beyond the first year? What is the destiny of consciousness beyond even these veils? These questions will not go unanswered, but they must wait. For now, you've glimpsed a hidden map of the soul's sacred unfolding. What if the moment you call death isn't an end at all? What if it's merely the beginning of a journey your soul has taken countless times before, but you've been made to forget? Behind ancient temples, inside forbidden scrolls, and within the visions of mystics who dared to cross the veil, there lies a knowledge hidden from the eyes of the world until now. In this video, you will uncover what truly happens to the soul in the first year after death, an esoteric process far deeper than what religion or science dares to explain. From the sacred 7-day transition to the mysterious spiritual realms only accessed by vibrational alignment, from soul visitations that defy logic to the 40-day review where your entire life echoes back upon you, we will walk through every stage as revealed by ancient wisdom and confirmed by modern spiritual experiences. This isn't just another theory, it's a revelation. And by the end, you may never see life, death, or your own consciousness the same way again. So stay with me until the end. Like, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to join this mystical journey. The truths you're about to receive have been buried, not because they are untrue, but because they are too powerful to be easily known. Now that you've walked through the veils of the afterlife and glimpsed the soul's mysterious first year beyond death, ask yourself, is this knowledge truly new, or have you always known it deep within? Perhaps the signs have always been there, subtle dreams, synchronicities, or the quiet sense that someone, somewhere is still with you. But now that these sacred truths have resurfaced, what will you do with them? Let me know in the comments. Which part of this journey spoke to your soul the most? And what do you believe happens after we die? If this message resonated, share it with those ready to remember. And don't forget to subscribe. Our next journey will take us even deeper into the mysteries of the unseen. Until then, may the energy that connects all things continue to guide you. We'll meet again in this life or the next.